Wanted to extend my my heart to the family of Emily Pike, the 14-year-old San Carlos Apache girl who first went missing in a group home in Mesa, Arizona, but whose body was later found dismembered and scattered about in construction trash bags along the US Highway 60, not far from her home of the San Carlos Apache Reservation. And I can only imagine what the family is feeling at this time. So I extend my heart and I ask that not to come great creators, healing lights, don't let the sunlight come in and to wrap their hearts with love, to lift them up, their hearts and minds, and allow them to get on that good, healthy grieving path for the future. And may they receive closure and justice be served. And the answers come about what had happened to their daughter, the granddaughter, their niece, their sister, their cousin. So I extend all my love to the San Carlos Apache people, and that whenever it is that they send her off to the spirit world, and the way that they do is the Apache people, that it may be the most beautiful way that can be done considering the circumstances. And I wanted to take some time to help raise awareness about the phenomenon of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. And Emily's case, unfortunately, is not an isolated incident. It's not a first time occurring incident, but rather her case is part of this ongoing phenomenon of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls who are disproportionately more affected by violence against them than their non-native counterparts. This is a public health crisis that has gone unchecked largely since the colonization of this, what we now know as North America. Our family has been negatively impacted by this, as many Indigenous families, when in 2006, our sister Wysteria Dovey, who went missing, and about a month later, after filing a missing persons report by my father, her body was turned up at a ditch in Phoenix, South Phoenix. And I'll spare the details of it, but she left behind 3 children. And today there are young adults who have struggled to find their footing in this world, but thankfully they're doing okay. And this is the case for many people throughout Native country. And I don't share this to seek your sympathy. I'm not looking for condolences or not looking for your pity. I'm sharing this simply to show that, our family has been negatively impacted by this. And so I wanted to share with you, if you are a non-Indigenous person, I want to encourage you to have an open mind, have an open heart. Remember empathy, love, and compassion, especially for those of you that are from faith-based religions. What does your religious ideology say about love, empathy, compassion, kindness, care, honor? These are all very basic human teachings and emotions that without these, we would not be where we are today as 2-legged, 5-fingered beings. Following these teachings and acknowledging what we are made of, all the way down to the atoms of our cells, has allowed us to thrive and get this far in this world. And so I encourage you to think about kindness, compassion, love, and empathy, and applying that unconditionally to everybody around you, even those, especially those outside of your demographic, especially to those who don't vote the same way you do, or who don't marry the same way you do, or have the same political, social, cultural ideology as you. Because when we truly look at what we all need to thrive as human beings, it's the same thing. We're more similar than we are different. We can acknowledge our similarities while respecting our differences. So I encourage you to have empathy and compassion in this topic. Now, missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls is just one component of it. And so this doesn't just apply to women and children. This applies largely to the LGBTQ+, Two-Spirit people as well. In our culture, in Native culture, those people originally, in our original practice, in our original worldview, pre-colonial times, were revered as sacred and special. They had a very specific role within our communities as caretakers and even as warriors. So it's important to understand that. This applies to all. As Native people, women and children are supposed to be upheld with the utmost respect and honor because of their sacredness to give life. And so this is such an important topic, that the violence committed against women and children as sacred beings, as children, and as sacred beings, as life givers, and women, it's a violation of spiritual law, in addition to, of course, federal law, state law, tribal law. It's a violation to spiritual, natural law. It's important for us as Native people to acknowledge that, in addition to the laws that we have to follow. Now, I want to share some stats with you here for those of you that are not familiar with this phenomenon that's been happening throughout North America. In 2016 alone, there were about 5,712 reports of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, but only 116 of them got logged in the Department of Justice database. Murder is the third leading cause of death for Indigenous women, with rates 10 times higher than the national average on reservations. 84% of Native American and Alaskan Native women have experienced violence in their lifetime, with murder rates nearly 3 times higher than non-Indigenous women. This data is out there. It's not made up. It's not skewed. And I encourage you to look at these resources here. They're linked in the description. Also in Canada, Indigenous women represented 16% of homicide rates, while only being 4% of the female population. And from 2001 to 2015, the homicide rate amongst Indigenous women in Canada was 6 times higher than non-Indigenous women. These numbers are staggering. And these are just the data that was logged. This doesn't account for many of the cases that weren't reported by local authorities. Now, another really alarming statistic you should know about is that 89 to 96% of sexual assault committed on Native Indigenous women is by non-Indigenous perpetrators, with about 21% of Native women reporting intimate partner violence. And I want to address the part about the intimate partner violence and the sexual, physical, emotional, spiritual violence committed against women being from our own men as Indigenous men. This is a very critical topic and has to do with the healing of all of our people as Indigenous people, that the men that are committing these crimes, these heinous crimes against women and children and people of the LGBTQ plus community, these are symptoms of their unwellness. They've been hurt. This is historic, intergenerational, complex, multi-layered grief and trauma being played out. Men experience and display depression differently than women. They display it with aggressive behavior at times. And of course, that sometimes amounts to suicide, which is another rate that's really high amongst Native men. But these are a symptom of men out of balance, not just Indigenous men, but men worldwide. We have lost our ways largely as men. And I want to remind Native men, remember what our role was in pre-colonial times, and not just pre-colonial times, in recent history. And many men still follow this, and I commend you, men out there. And this case with Emily, I've seen more Native men stand up and speak and get out there and be on the Capitol and get out there and post on social media. Before, it was just Native women carrying this crusade to bring awareness. Now more men are standing up. But I want to remind men, and men talk about being a warrior, which is a term that I really don't use as much. But if you look historically and you talk to your cultural leaders and your knowledge keepers and you look at the languages, what was the word for what we call a warrior today using this colonial language? a chuchkiadam for where I come from, and that means someone who fights. But fights for what? For who? For himself? To look good for glorification? No. He fought originally to protect the women, children, the elderly people, to protect resources, to protect the land. That's what we were. We need to restore that and be a protector of women, children, and be a protector of knowledge, being a protector of your role within your clan, within your community, as a male, as a man, taking care of your hunchbadag, your body, your mind, your body, spirit, to be well, to be capable, to be a good contributor, to participate politically, socially, culturally, spiritually in your community, and protect women, children, and elderly. And I don't mean just getting out there, with your war club and your bow and hollering around and, getting out on a crusade and picking fights. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about being present, showing love, empathy, compassion, and kindness, and respecting the evolving role that women and two-spirit people have, and doing what you can to make sure that you're creating a safe space for children to learn in, to live in, creating a safe space for coworkers, fellow students to feel good about being safe there, taking care of them, offering up your seat, being the last to eat. That's being a true protector of knowledge, making sure that the children know as much as they can, whatever you know about the language, the ceremonies, the songs, the dances, your creation stories, making sure children know that, making sure women know that, and fostering space where Native women feel safe and empowered to evolve their role within community. That's what being, to me, that's what being a protector is. If you have the ancient war clubs or any sort of warrior items that your men used from your nation, repurpose those to be a tool, a symbol for all these things that I just mentioned. Don't just hang it up on your wall. Use it, pray with it, use it in ceremony, run with it, work out with it. Let it be a symbol to restore what it truly means to be an Indigenous man in 2025. Lots more to say on that, and I commend all the men in Native country that are leading this charge to restore their role and evolve their role as men, as fathers, whether they are straight, bisexual, gay, or trans. I commend you, men out there that are doing this. That's what we need. And we need to show dominant society what is masculinity, what is manhood today, because they're losing that. So that's my message to Native people out there, Native men far and wide. And remember to continue to take care of ourselves, to take care of each other's, to have compassion, kindness, love, respect, honor, wisdom, bravery. These are important teachings of our people, our ancestors. Remember, we are the ancestors. They moved on and passed on indigeneity to us. It's a continuum. It's not something that only existed in the past. It's happening here and now. We have to give ourselves permission to evolve. We have the discretion to determine what is our indigeneity politically, culturally, spiritually, socially. So remember that. We have to be in a state of preservation, evolution, and revitalization simultaneously. Lots more to say, but I just wanted to come on and share these thoughts and help spread awareness. Once again, do your own searching online. You can't miss it. Keep your fire strong.